When you're hiring, do you focus on what the person's going to need to do or who you are as a company? Hey, I'm Jono White from Clarity, and today in this video or podcast, wherever you're listening to this or watching, you're going to get 3 tips to make sure you're finding great talent by focusing on who you are as a company. Welcome to the Leadership Question of the Day podcast. Thank you for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. If you haven't done that, please do that now. Wherever you are, click that button. That really helps us to get the word out to more leaders, but it'll also keep you in the loop so you get all of our best content. So the question today is all about finding great talent. One of the biggest challenges leaders are talking to me about at the moment, and I think always really, is how do I find great talent, Jono? Like, how do I do it? And this is one of my big questions that I always push back with is when someone asks this question, I say, okay, well, when you do advertise, are you leading with what the person's going to need to do, or are you leading with who you are as a company? And that's because when you're leading with what the person needs to do, you're on an even playing field, right? Excuse me. And so the first tip I want to give you in this area is I want you to lead with values. Lead with values. Values changes up the playing field. Okay, you might be on an even playing field for how much money they're going to make. You might be on an even playing field for the amount of responsibility they're going to get in your company. But nothing magnetizes people, the right people. Nothing draws the right people and, get this, repels the wrong people, like really clearly articulated values. If your organization is massive on fun, authentically, you're not just saying that because you wish you were, then lead with fun. You know, hey, we're looking for someone who embraces fun because that's core to what we do. Here's an example of why, blah, 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 and this is what the role is. Okay, now someone who's a bit more serious and doesn't really they're not really your type of person, they're going to skip past that. Someone who is looking at you and 10 others and is really also shares that value around fun is going to be super drawn to that. For me, whenever I'm advertising any sort of role with Clarity, I lead with my values, which the way I'm articulating them at the moment is speaking well of others. And so, I lead with that. I also lead with this idea of having realistic expectations and work-life balance. And some places might talk about that in the details, like we're big on work-life balance. But I like to lead with that. I like to say, hey, are you the sort of person who is an encourager? You speak well of others. You are passionate about realistic expectations and actually just doing the best you can, and that's really important to you. Work-life balance. Do you love what you do and your skill set? But it's really important to you to live a life to the full and to do extreme life and really family, friends, and your hobbies, and to invest in that passionately and at the same time to love what you're doing, then boom, you might be a fit for us. So you can hear that's suddenly filtering out, and it's creating a point of difference. So the first tip I want to give you is lead with values. The second excuse me. The second tip is when you're in the interview room, look for values. And so when it comes to hiring, too often when we're in the interview room, we are focusing on competency. And the truth is that someone who needs a little bit of training but is a 10 out of 10 for values versus someone who's super competent but is a 7 out of 10 for values, the 10 out of 10 for values is the long-term winner every time. I'm sorry, it's just true. You can always train someone up. And you know what? The dream is you hire someone teachable, humble. So when I'm in an interview room, I like to also use Patrick Lencioni's ideal team player principles: humble, hungry, people smart. Because when you're in the interview room, you can think values. So for me, once again, I'm thinking, does this person speak well of others? When they're talking about their boss that they had a couple of jobs back where it didn't end well, are they absolutely throwing them under the bus, or are they telling the facts of what happened but also still focusing on speaking well of them? Because that's not important for everyone, right? But for me, that's a core value of Clarity. But then you've got humble, hungry, people smart as well. I'm looking for humility. beyond the interview room, I'm looking for humility in terms of, if they've been on the phone to someone else rather than just me so far, how did they treat them? Did they treat them well? Did they treat them with respect? Because a person who walks in humility will do that. Someone who struggles with humility and maybe has a bit more of an ego and pride, they're likely to mistreat people that they don't see as important and influential for them. So suddenly you've got a different lens to look through. And when you've got two candidates, you're going, well, he does have 5 years more experience than her, but you go, but she's such a match for our values. Maybe that means that she's the one that you actually hire, because 2 years down the track you won't be firing someone because of slight incompetence, or losing sleep at night because you haven't quite trained them well enough on X or Y. It'll be back to who they are and how they fit the values of your company. And if they're not doing their job in some way, it's usually because of those things. Honestly, that's my experience. And so the third tip I want to give you around this idea of, when you're hiring, are you focusing on what they need to do or who you are as a company? The third tip I want to give you is, don't be afraid to hire no one. I'm a big believer in extremes. And this is one of those extremes. Go extreme at getting as many people as possible. One thing that drives me crazy is hearing about organizations that spend months, years deciding on intricacies of this or that, which to me are so unimportant. Like maybe they're semi-important, but they're not that important. And then they have a job come up and they're like, I reckon Betty could do that. Yeah, let's get Betty in. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is the most important thing in your company. There's nothing more important than who's on your bus. You should be going so wide and so deep into your networks to find people. So wide, so deep, extreme, right? Like, go extreme. Get in front of, if you're normally in front of 100 people, then get in front of 10,000 people. Why? Because particularly if you lead with values and follow my advice here, you will be amazed who comes to you and says, I know that your job's 20 grand less, but I read this and this, and that's me to a T, and I think I'd love working with you. I can take the hit on the money if I can work in a workplace that really believes in blah, blah, blah. So go extreme at the start, but this is where go extreme at the other end too. If someone's a 7 out of 10 for your values, if you've got 3 people, you've done all this work, and they're all 5 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 7 out of 10, then don't hire yet. I know that sounds crazy, but a month of not having someone, 2 months of not having someone, which might seem like a nightmare, is better than 2 years of having the wrong person, which sets your whole organization back. And then what you can do as well is you can, if you've got the right person, or if you don't find the right person, there's always freelancers, there's always options. You can go, okay, we don't have someone right now, but maybe we can outsource this initially so that the gap gets filled, but at the same time we're able to continue doing what we're doing. So if that's helped you to get clear in anything around your leadership, then comment with the word clarity wherever you're watching or listening to this. Thank you again for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. And if you haven't done that, please do that now. Click the subscribe button, follow us, share it with your network. It helps us to get the word out to help more leaders to become the very best they can be. And it also means that you'll stay in the loop with all of our awesome content, which I'm really proud of. Right now, we are launching a bunch of videos we've had more than 1,400 leaders do the 7 questions on leadership. And so we've reached out to, and we've got some of the best who we've just gone, man, that is just gold. And we've said, do you think you could take it to another level and actually, really, really, really help other leaders out there by doing a video where you just talk about this question or something you're really passionate about, and that's launching ASAP. And I really believe we're all going to benefit heaps from that. It's going to be up on our YouTube playlist. We might even turn it to a podcast too, which I'm just thinking now off the top of my head. Brand new thoughts with Jono White. But once again, thank you for hanging with me. I don't underestimate the significance of you tuning in wherever you're watching or listening. It means a lot. And I hope you have gotten something out of our time hanging out together, apart from listening to me cough and splutter. So thank you for what you're doing as a leader. And I'm really excited about our next chance to hang out together. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.